All right, we're talking to Jovia Armstrong, who just finished her Cajon clinic, and I want to ask you a couple of questions about the things you were teaching.
Okay.
So one of the things you asked people was whether they were drum set players who, are beginning to use Cajon or using Cajon to replace drum set on certain gigs. Is that something that you're seeing more of?
I'm seeing a lot more of that in the last, I want to say 2 years. And I mentioned news shows like Good Morning America, because you would see a band from Nashville performing, but they would be doing a acoustic set. And so the drummer of the group usually would just have the cajon with maybe a hi-hat or some shakers. So I'm definitely seeing more and more drummers gravitating to playing cajon these days.
One of the great points that I thought you made in that was that the cajon with a cymbal replaces the core of the drum set. You get a snare sound, a bass sound, and then you can add one or two other sounds, and you have a simple drum set.
Yeah, it kind of the cajon in that setup kind of forces you to play the fundamentals of the drum set, which is kick, snare, maybe hi-hat. You have those three, you should be able to rock out a whole show. I've seen guys do shows with just that. They don't have all the whistles and things, all the extra toms and, special effect cymbals. And all of that stuff is good for coloring, of course. But sometimes I think when you have like a huge drum set, I think for some drummers it causes them to just overkill the drum set, and they play all of these other drum fills and things like that. And a lot of times the artist just wants to hear the pocket.
Yes.
The artist usually is
the audience too.
Yeah. And the audience, you want to just hear the groove, you want to hear the pocket, you want to hear the song. And sometimes playing too much, you just overcrowd the music. And so I think with the cajon, it's automatically kick and snare, and if you can add that hi-hat, so you're kind of playing just the fundamentals of the drum set. And so I think that's why I get hired as much as I do, because artists are kind of like, man, this is all I really need. This is all I really want. Is this.
The cajon doesn't take the same sort of nuanced skill that some of the other percussion drums take, where they, like a conga has a variety of really technique that you have to learn before you start to even produce something good. So the cajon is a little more forgiving as an instrument. But still, do you have to teach tone production when you're teaching students?
It's funny. I just came from downstairs, and one of my former students, I used to teach at an audio engineering school here in Chicago. He's now working downstairs for the Chicago Drum Show, but he said, I would like to take more percussion lessons with you now, because one of the things you mentioned, he said one of the things I saw was that you play with your fingertips. And I said, yeah, I didn't talk about that. So when you play with your flat hand on the cajon, you will get a more full sound. You'll get get more bottom out of it, and you'll get an overall full sound. But when I use my fingertips, I get more staccato. And I'm assuming that's because there's less contact. So I'm able to use my fingertips to get just a nice kick, just a nice thump. And when I use my full hand, that's a different sound that I'm going for. So there are, and then hand placement matters too for the cajon. So if I go to the top left corner, or for some cajons it would be the other corner, you get a way more slap. And I also take the screws out the top.
Yeah.
I take all the screws out, and so I get even more slap there. So that just helps it differentiate the kick from the snare on the cajon. So yeah, it is a little bit more forgiving though. Yeah, I would agree with that. Although I still apply a lot of my rudiments and things like that onto the cajon.
Yeah, well, you went into that as well. That learning the rudiments and applying them to hand percussion generally is not as common as maybe it should be to really bring out what the instruments can do.
Yeah, I find that I think percussion is an instrument that people can walk into a pawn shop and grab. It's a fun instrument. You go to a drum circle, you hit it. Nobody's looking for you to know any Cuban rhythms or anything like that. And so I think a lot of percussionists I run into, they haven't studied, percussion. They haven't studied Afro-Cuban percussion or Brazilian or Middle Eastern or anything. So rudiments is something that I apply all the time, between my congas and my tambourine and cowbells. It allows me to still give you, again, sticking with the fundamentals over here, because if I'm playing congas, I could, of course, just play a simple rhythm, but then you add in all the writing and stuff that we do as percussionists. When I take one hand away, I'm not doing as much stuff, but I'm still playing the fundamental rhythm. And that also frees up my left hand to do other things. So you're still getting congas. It's just not the full thing if it was both my hands. But Giovanni Hidalgo, Tata Wines, all of these guys, they studied rudiments, and that's kind of what makes them slick and, who they are.
You get a bigger vocabulary that way.
Yeah. And so I, in the last few years, started to applying rudiments to congas, but then, experimenting with, okay, what if I put a stick in his hand? Did the same thing, but now I have a stick.
People love that explanation in your clinic about using the stick in the left hand and the palm in the right hand to really create a full kit sound.
Yeah, a lot of times I see the guys who are just playing 2 and 4 on the hi-hat, and I'm always thinking, what more can I do? What else can I do? So I started to doing the sizzle, the like keeping other rhythms with my hands. But I think as long as you keep that question in mind as a percussionist, you'll always experiment and grow. Just thinking about, what else can I do right now? I've got an extra hand. What can this hand do? What can this hand do? What is this foot? This foot is just sitting here. What can this foot do right now?
Well, they can hear that on the performance that we've got you on.
Oh, cool.
So let me ask you this question, because we'll be considerate of the viewer's time here. But some of this, you're getting some of these lessons down on video, but people can also take lessons from you directly. Is that right?
Most definitely, yeah. I'm based in Chicago. I travel quite a bit with my band, so people can catch me in different places. And then I'm teaching out of my home, but I'm also I travel if Chicago has a lot of traffic, so but I am based here, and I'm available for private lessons. The lesson videos hopefully will be out by August. Those will be done, and we can always expand on that stuff.
Okay. It's good. Let me tell people where you can find this stuff at joviamusic.com. That's Jovia Armstrong, Jovia, the cajon player with J.C. Brooks and the Uptown Sound. Thank you.